Lei può parlare di qui come vuole, come vuole, come vuole. Good morning everybody. It's okay. Today we are fully booked. No. Just few minutes. At the end, when you have the question, let's try to be short in the question, such that the ambassador will answer more questions, because at 11 o'clock sharp he has to leave, so we cannot go over that time. That's okay. Ambassador Miguel Fernández-Palacios, thank you very much to have accepted our invitation. This question time is part of the program of Diplomacy Festival, but is also part of the semester, presidents of the semester, European semester of the Council of Europe, that is Spanish this year. So I will not take more time. I will leave the floor to your colleague Federica, that is going to introduce His Excellency. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is an honor for me to introduce to you the Spanish ambassador to Italy, Miguel Fernández-Palacios Martinez. He was born in 1965 in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. He completed his PhD in constitutional law at the Universidad Complutense de Madrid, and he joined the Spanish diplomatic services in 1994. His career began in the embassies of Algiers, The Hague, and Tegucigalpa. He was then ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo between 2006 and 2008, and to Ethiopia between 2011 and 2015, as well as permanent observer representative to the African Union. In Spain, he worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Defense, as Director of Cabinet of the Minister, and as Director of Cabinet of the President of the Congress of Deputies. In 2018, he was appointed Ambassador Permanent Representative of Spain to the NATO Council. Miguel Fernández-Palacios Martínez is currently the Spanish Ambassador to Italy. En nombre de todos, les doy la bienvenida al Festival de la Diplomacia.
Buongiorno a tutti, mi sembra che devo parlare inglese, mi hanno detto, no? Quindi faremo in inglese. Dear friends, first of all, thank you very much for being here. Do you think it's interesting to hear the Spanish ambassador to Italy? I hope it will be. I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to Festival de la Diplomacia for inviting me to address you as Spanish ambassador to the Italian Republic. I'm here to share with you the priorities of the Spanish presidency of the Council of the European Union. As you know, this marks the fifth time that Spain has assumed the presidency of the Council since joining the European Union back in 1986. We are now exercising this leadership role for the fifth time, and I can assure you that we are approaching it with the same enthusiasm as we did at the first time that we assumed the presidency back in 1989. The European Union, and I like to underline it every time I have the opportunity, is not just a process. It's not just a project, it's a process. And if we intend to build a more united, a more cohesive, a more competitive, and more international influential Europe, we must not lack the will or the ideas to do so. Spain took over the presidency, as you just said, of the European Union Council July 1st after Sweden, and we will be a presidency until December 31st that Belgium will be the president of the Council. But we took over this presidency at a pivotal moment in Europe, and I would say also in the global calendar. Let's speak first about Europe and the European context. Within this strictly European context, the Spanish presidency is, as you maybe know, the last full rotating president of the von der Leyen Commission, given that the European Union Parliament elections are scheduled for June 24. So Spain, therefore, is called upon to make every effort to close numerous pending issues on the Council's agenda, and we are doing so. Our role is, and has been since last July, of an honest broker dedicated to building bridge. We are bridge builders to bridging differences and advancing the European agenda. As we celebrate, because we are celebrating it this year, the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the single market, we think that it's also essential to further strengthen the Union's economic dimension, but always keeping in mind that the European Union is a community of values and rights which must provide protection to our citizens, to Europeans in a very changing world. On the global stage, I must share with you a word on the war in Ukraine. It is a war that is unjust, illegal, unprovoked, and neither Europe or Spain as the current presidency can remain indifferent to this fact. Our support for the legitimate right to self-defense of the Ukrainian people is rock solid. This commitment has been reaffirmed on numerous occasions by our Prime Minister, our Minister of Defense, or our Foreign First Minister. And I used to say in my last years as NATO ambassador back in Brussels. Our support includes a political, humanitarian, but also military support. The delivery of weapon systems to the Ukrainian authorities is considered a top priority for my government. Let us not forget that if Russia stops fighting, the war ends. If Ukraine stops fighting, Ukraine ends. And I would like also to underline that the Ukrainians are fighting for values and principles that are our own. But the world is very complicated these days, very challenging, and you know perfectly that on October 7th, a serious crisis erupted in the Middle East, compounding the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, thereby exacerbating geopolitical tensions on the global stage, in which Spain and Italy, as I'm ambassador here, and the whole European Union are involved. Our position towards the situation in the Middle East was articulated by our President, our Prime Minister, in an institutional statement on October 17th. But this the same position of the whole European Union. You know that today there's a European Council in Brussels, so maybe there will be some new information coming from Brussels, but the our position is the same as the European Union position, and is centers around four key principles. First, a resolute and unequivocal condemnation by the European Union and Spain of the heinous terrorist attack carried out by Hamas against Israel. Second, the demand for the immediate unconditional release of all hostages held by Hamas, including our compatriot, this is Spanish, has been kidnapped. Ivan Iyaramendi is his name. Thirdly, we acknowledge Israel's right to defend itself in strict compliance with international law, particularly international humanitarian law. And fourthly and last, Israel must ensure continuous access to humanitarian aid to Gaza and the protection of the civilian population in Gaza. This is the formal, the official position of the European Union, and of course, is also ours. Lastly, I would like also to share with you a couple of cross-cutting threats and challenges that have marked and continue to mark our presidency. First, I begin with the threat arising from the accelerated climate change and the consequences of this acceleration on our daily lives. You know, we are still in the summer, more or less, no? And we are end of October. So this has been present in the whole presidency, but not only, and we are absolutely aware of it and of the consequences of it. I continue with the obstacles to further growth and increased competitiveness of our economy following the two major crises that have alterated many of our previous paradigms. Of course, I'm speaking about the financial crisis of 2008 and the 2020 and 21 pandemic. And I conclude with the significant challenge of immigration a phenomenon that cannot be divorced from a fundamental idea, the need for a common European policy based on two key principles that are solidarity and responsibility. Maybe you know that the Coreper last October 7th approved the Pact on Migration and Asylum and Immigration. This is an extraordinary step for the European Union. We have worked for over 2 years to set up all the necessary structures to ensure the success of this Spanish semester. And I would like to share a little bit with you how we have been working before the beginning of this presidency. We have strengthened the relevant structures within the Prime Minister's office, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the permanent representation in Brussels, and also some key embassies. And for example, in our embassy in Italy, here in Rome, has seen the arrival of 4 new officials. We have engaged in regular interministerial dialogue to identify priorities, objectives, and means towards our presidency. We have enriched our presidency program with contributions by our regions, which have presented a consolidated document of political priorities for the presidency. Then, through specific conferences at the Chamber of Deputies and the Senate, the Spanish government has maintained an ongoing dialogue with all political parties on the main lines of the presidency, and finally aiming to directly channel the diverse sensitivities of social agents and the third sector. The Civil Society Forum has prepared insight reports on our presidency. Before I touch, as we are here in Italy, and many of you are Italians, before I touch upon the priorities of the Spanish presidency of the Council, I would like to take a few minutes to describe what has been the process of interaction between Spain and the Italian government in order to prepare our presidency. Several months before the start of the semester, we have identified a set of member states that the Spanish authorities would visit to listen their concerns, to hear their comments and expectations in the framework of our presidency. And Italy was logically one of these selected countries. 4 were and still are the areas of shared interest that we identified towards Italy. It was internal affairs, think about migration, terrorism, organized crime. Second, agriculture. I think only that 32% of the European Union budget is dedicated to agriculture. Defense, think about the war in Ukraine at the time, and energy, consequences of the war in Ukraine. So let me begin with internal affairs. On February 3rd, the Spanish Minister of the Interior, Fernando Marlasca, visited Rome and to meet his Italian counterpart, Matteo Piantedosi. During the meeting, the Spanish Minister conveyed to his Italian colleague that the fight against terrorism and organized crime, as well as logically the migration policy, would be the priorities of the Spanish Ministry of Interior for the presidency during the Spanish presidency. It became apparent on the occasion that Spain and Italy hold at that time similar positions in favor of a European Union pact on migration and asylum that emphasizes the external dimension of this pact, and therefore cooperation with the countries of origin or transit of irregular migration. As I told you before, finally on October 7th, the Coreper adopted the last instrument of this. There are 7 different instruments. It was supposed the crisis instrument for this asylum pact, and so we hope to see finally approved the asylum pact before the end of our presidency. And this is a major success, I think, from our part, but also it's very important for Italy, and we have been coordinating very closely with the Italian authorities. Exactly 1 month later, on March 3rd, the Spanish Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food came to Rome to share our agenda and priorities with the Italian Minister of Agriculture, Food Sovereignty and Forestry, Francesco Lollobrigida. In the agriculture sector, Spain is prioritizing several legislative works during this presidency, such as the proposal for regulation on the sustainable use of plant protection products, the framework initiative on sustainable food systems, the proposals on new genomic techniques, and geographical indications. Furthermore, we saw interior affairs, agriculture, and then defense. On March 30th, our Minister of Defense came here to Rome to meet his counterpart, Minister Crosetto. It was a very constructive meeting where strategic issues for Italy and Spain were discussed, such as the war in Ukraine, the current state of NATO and the transatlantic relations, the future of the European defense and security, and of course threats coming from the south, from the Sahel, which, as you know, will represent a challenge for both countries. And finally, on March 31st, our Vice President and Minister for Ecological Transition and Energy met with the Minister Pichetto Fratin, her Italian counterpart, and during the discussion, again, the priorities of Spain in the field of ecological transition and energy were addressed. These are topics that have gained crucial importance, these four, for our two countries, and I'm thinking about security, but also about energy. Are more important after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. But in addition to these four ministerial level meetings, I would like to mention two other meetings that were also very important, and that you can understand how important they were to organize, to prepare our presidents. First, the Joint Committee for European Union Affairs of our Chamber and Senate arrived in Rome March 24th, and during their stay they had two main meetings, first with the Italian committees of Senate and Camera dei Deputati to speak about our presidency, and second with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and also Deputy Prime Minister Antonio Tajani. In the first of this meeting with the Italian committees, because we have one committee, it's a joint committee, but the Italians have two, one in each chamber. As I was saying, in the first of these meetings, constructive dialogue took place on how the Spanish parliamentarians perceived the presidency, and they were also sharing with the Italian counterparts what were the expectations of the Italians of the Italian parliamentarians for our presidency. Then also a very interesting meeting with Vice President Tajani was also very productive. There was a meeting that I think it demonstrated to our parliamentarians that beyond the political choices of each government, there are share strategic interests between the two countries that can be more effectively defended in Brussels through previous bilateral coordination. And second, as part of this preparatory tour for the European President, our Prime Minister, President Sanchez, met with Prime Minister Meloni here in Rome on April 5th, and during this meeting also several topics were addressed, and I remember competitiveness, the need for sustainable economic growth, the reindustrialization of Europe, the reform of the electricity market, the ecological transition, digital transformation, and obviously the pact on migration and asylum. Of course, we also speak about Russia, Ukraine, and the situation in the Sahel. And finally, I also must inform you that at a more technical level, our Secretary General for European Union Affairs is also the Director Generals responsible for Coreper 1 and Coreper 2 were here several times interacting with her and their Italian counterparts to see what were the visions and the expectations of the Italian authorities towards our presidency. I had the honor to participate in all this meeting, and also I think they were all of them very productive, and we took note of many ideas and many concerns coming from the Italian side, and I think the Italians, I have a regular interaction with the Italian government as ambassador, and I think they are very happy of how we are handling our presidency, how we are tackling the main topics in our presidency, and as I was telling before, the main example is the asylum pact approved by Coreper on October 7th. Obviously, we identified four priorities for our presidency, but you know that
there's a constantly evolving context and global situation that maybe some of the problems that weren't there are now there, some problems and threats and challenges that were there are no longer there. But in general, I think the four priorities that we identified before beginning our presidency are still there. We are working there, and I think are also shared by all member states in Brussels, and I think we are doing a very positive work. Our first priority was reindustrialization and open strategic autonomy. This was the main topic, as many of you maybe know, of the informal European Council held in Granada on October 6th. Then there was also a migration issue that Italy was very interested in introducing an agenda, and we say, of course, it was only the day after the agreement in Coreper, so also migration was part of the agenda. But in principle, this meeting at the European Council level was convened to speak about reindustrialization and open and strategic autonomy. It is clear that many of these issues that our citizens have suffered from in recent years have a common denominator. And think now, for example, about the pandemic in 2020 and 2021. Our, and when I say ours, the European excessive dependence on a small number of third countries. This compelled us to strengthen our autonomy in sectors that are crucial, that are key, that are critical for our citizens. And I'm thinking about energy, I'm thinking about health, I'm thinking about food, or I'm thinking about the digital sphere. To this end, it is essential to support the reindustrialization of our continent, along with the diversification of sources of supply with our most reliable partners. The second priority that we identify is promoting the ecological transition and environmental adaptation. We view the fight against climate change and environmental degradation not only as a legal and moral obligation, but also as a great opportunity to drastically reduce our energy dependence, to reduce our electricity bill, making the European companies more competitive, and also to create jobs. The reform of the electricity market to focus on increase or use of renewable energies, reducing electricity prices, and improving overall system stability. In this regard, we are pleased to see that there are already some tangible results for the whole of the European Union. The directive on energy efficiency has been adopted. The regulation on the establishment of infrastructure for alternative fuels has been adopted. The regulation of the use of renewable and low carbon emission fuels in maritime transport has been adopted. During the final phase of our presidency, we will continue to address significant dossiers in these fields, including the gas and hydrogen package and the energy efficiency regulation. All this is to ensure that the European Union continues to lead the global fight against climate change, creating wealth and new opportunities in this process. The third priority is the consolidation of the social and economic pillar. We believe that the growth of the European GDP alone is not enough. The wealth generated must reach all citizens to increase their opportunities and to improve their quality of life. We need an economy that is more competitive, but also more fair and more attentive. Both objectives are compatible. We are absolutely sure about that we have to move in this direction to make both objectives compatible. We have started working on the revision of the multi-annual financial work, that is, as you know, to 21-27. And on adequate reform of economic governance rules aiming to increase transparency, combine the sustainability of public finance with adequate funding for social services, and green and digital transitions, the two main transitions that we have to focus in the years to come. We have already managed to unlock the post-Cotonou agreement to reshape the relations between the European Union and 79 countries in Africa, the Caribbean, and the Pacific. Additionally, Spain is committed to promoting the protection of vulnerable groups such as children, women suffering violence, and people with disabilities. Among the various social issues, I can highlight the European Disability Card or the recent ratification of the ILO Convention, the Convention 119, the first international instrument establishing minimum standards on violence and harassment in the workplace. We also give top priority to what is most fundamental for citizens, their health. We aim to establish a true European Union health by creating a European health data space and strengthen European action in healthcare and mental health. And the fourth and final priority is the strengthening of the European unity. This fourth and last priority is fundamental and forms the basis of everything else. The strengthening of the European Union in a context marked by increasing geopolitical tensions, thinking about the war in Ukraine, thinking about the situation in the Middle East. The European Union must remain united, and member states must continue to develop tools that allow them to collectively address the major challenges of our time. So it is crucial to continue supporting Ukraine based on principles of unity and solidarity among us. It's also essential to offer a real perspective to those like Ukraine and the Western Balkans who wish to join the Union. With the prospect of a broader European Union, we must support, and this is very important, I think it's one of the most critical topics that we will tackle in the coming years, is the optimization of the decision-making process inside the European Union. This mechanism will also help to strengthen the European Union's role in the world, and so I think it's one of the most important issues, and maybe nobody's speaking enough about the future of the European Union, the future after the enlargement, and how we have to work to change how we work today in the European Union. Furthermore, our presidency promotes a more efficient and coordinated management of migration and asylum procedure. I have been repeated it many times, but I think it's extremely important. We just approved at corporate level the pact. We hope to have it on the table and publish on our diary and at the end of December. So these were the four priorities, and I want to share with you one last idea. Is that it has a lot to do with the fact that I'm the Spanish ambassador here. Is that I'm fully aware that we Spaniards, we have to work more and better with Italian authorities, because at the end of the day, the main files that we are tackling back in Brussels are the Italian position and our position is very close, and this is nothing to do, as my Prime Minister said when he comes here April 5th, with the fact that there's a center-left government in Spain or center-left or center-right government in Italy. It's nothing to do with this. It has to do with the fact that these are strategic interests that have to be supported and defended together in Brussels. And once we do so, and we have many examples in the past, and maybe when we have the Q&A segment here with you, we can speak a little bit more of that. We see that the interests of the Italian citizens and the Spanish citizens are better protected. So I think, and that's why I'm working every day with the Italian authorities to try to reinforce this bilateral coordination, and to work better and to work more together in Brussels at the European Union level, but also at NATO level. This is so important in this state. So I will stop there. If there are any questions from your party, I will try to answer them. Thank you.
Good morning, Ambassador. Thank you for being here. I'm Rebecca Maria Serrano, and I'm a global governance student from Italy. And my question is, like, is the Spanish monarchy expected to fade, or expected to fade, like destined to fade, or like, because it's one of the few monarchies remained in Europe, or the recent statements of Leonor, Princess Leonor, are trying to rejuvenate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I wanted to ask you something related to, yes, to País Vasco, and in particular, what happened after the ETA terrorist group was dissolved in 2018, and if it still has some kind of ideological relevance in the territory. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Livia Bartolozzi and I'm a second year student of Global Governance from Italy. I have a question related to the Catalonia issue, a comunidad autónoma characterized by nationalism. Indeed, in 2017 it declared its independence from Spain with an unconstitutional referendum. In fact, then the Catalan government was dissolved and new elections were held. Now, my question is, in your perspective, are these claims in Catalonia still stronger, and therefore how is the Spanish government managing the situation? Thank you.
Devo rispondere anche se vorrei rispondere in italiano, ma dai, rispondiamo in inglese. Monarchy. I think this is a no question in Spain. I think nobody's putting this question in a serious way. So there's a great majority of Spaniards that support our monarchy. It's a system that works. King Philip is a very beloved king. Now with Princess Leonor, people are very happy. Of course, we are a free country, and there are people that are not sharing the values of monarchy, the importance of monarchy, but it's an extremely minority. It's not the real majority of the country. And remember that Norway, Sweden, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, United Kingdom, Liechtenstein and Spain, and also Luxembourg, we all have monarchies, and I think if you see the index of development, the UNDP, the development countries are these are maybe among the 20 most developed countries in the world. So I don't think that it's something of the past. I think it's something, Spain is something very present, also something very of the future. So this is it's not a real debate about this, no? From time to time, maybe the people, some independentists in Catalonia and the Basque Country ask for it, but it's a minority in the country. Second, ETA. ETA was dissolved in 2018. I really don't remember one, but they are, no, more, because the last attack was in 2011, I think, but it was dissolved some years later. ETA is a great success. The defeat of ETA is a great success of the Spanish democracy. A great success. We are extremely proud of it. We paid a very strong price. More than 800 people were killed by ETA. I think it was 852 people killed by ETA. It is an extremely high price.
more than 300 members of the Guardia Civil, that are the brothers of the Italian Carabinieri, were killed by ETA. There was also many policemen and even politicians, armed forces servicemen. But we paid a huge price. But the story of ETA is a great story of a democratic success by the Spaniards. Now, there's no longer ETA. There is a party that represents the ideology of ETA, but not the means that it uses to use. And but this is also a great success of Spanish democracy, because they are in the parliament and they speak. You can defend. Our constitution doesn't allows you to defend in the independence of one part of the region of the country, but you have to do it in a democratic way and inside in the framework of the constitution. Is what Bildu is the name of this party is doing. So in the last government, they even supported the Spanish government. So they continue to think what they want to an independent Basque country, whatever, but they are not. The ETA doesn't exist anymore. So this is again one great example of success of Spanish democracy, because we defeated ETA under one principle, that is the rule of law. And so this is a great example of democracy, and so we are very proud of it, even if we paid an extremely high price to defeat ETA. And thank you. Catalonia, you asked me, so independence. What the polls say is, no, it's not the polls, it's the elections. The last elections, the first party was the Socialist Party. It is absolutely anti-independence. And you have heard about Puigdemont. He is the fifth party in Catalonia. And and the fourth party, and I give the example, is El Partido Popular, the Spanish Popular Party. So this is one thing that you have to know. Second, at 2017, that was when this fake referendum was organized, more or less following the polls, more or less 51% of between 50 and 51% of the Catalans who were pro-independence. The last survey said that there are 38, 37 people supporting independence, first of all. And above all, this is something that I repeat and continue to repeat. This is not a conflict between Spain and Catalonia, because that doesn't exist. Maybe Spain is Catalonia, Castilla, Andalusia, and so on. Maybe it can be a conflict between Catalonia and Castilla, but it's not. It's a conflict between Catalans. There are Catalans that want to be independent, and there are 40% or more, no, 60% or more, or 62% that do not want to be independent. So it's a conflict among Catalans. This is the first thing that you have to know. It's not about the rest of Spain. No? And there is a law. We are a democratic state. There's the rule of law is one of the defining principles of our democracy. Because all European democracies are not based, or all European member states are not based in the principle of democracy, are based in the principle of democratic law. This is a slightly different. Democratic law. Democratic law means democracy, but also rule of law. So it's not about I organize a referendum, and no, you have to organize a referendum in the framework of the constitution, in the framework of the law. And it's very important to make the difference between democracy and democratic law. I believe in democratic law, because this also means respect of the minorities, respect of the principle of rule of law. These three. I have a couple of minutes, Paul.
Okay, hi, my name is Alice Tropiano. I'm a second-year global governance student from Italy. And my question is related to the relationship between Italy and Spain. So, indeed, today, the first party in Italy is Fratelli d'Italia, a right party, which has a strong bond with the Spanish right party Vox. Since today in Spain, there's a government led by the left party, my question is, have the relations between Spain and Italy changed in any way or not?
Good morning. I'm Sofia Falanga, second year global governance student from Italy. My question is a question that we usually pose to you ambassadors in the end of the session, but from what I've understood, you have to leave early. So my question is there any possibility for Italian students who also speak English and Spanish to intern or work with you or enter in some project with the embassy? Thank you.
No, this is very, we do not have a stagiaire program in the embassy. There's a stagiaire program in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and normally there are some agreements signed by Spanish universities and the ministry, and this is the channel through we receive 3 or 4 stagiaires a year, but they are not contracted here. They are sent from Spain, and in the framework of this agreement between Spanish universities and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So, sorry for that. And then Italy and Spain, bilateral relations, Fratelli d'Italia Vox. I repeat, I said before that this is not about politics, it's about strategic interests. And I think that the government of Italy and our government are fully aware that there are some interests that we have to defend together in Brussels. And you know, Italy is the 3rd economy in the euro area. We are the 4th economy in the euro area. From every European, 1 out of 4 is an Italian or a Spaniard. And the problems, for example, security. We both look to Sahel, energy, we have similar problems. So really, if you see what are the main problems of the Spaniards, are almost the same of the Italians. We are 2 societies that are very united, I would say. And I give you 2 examples that I think makes a difference to other countries. First of all, we are only, and I underline only, more or less 35,000 Spaniards, between 35,000 and 40,000 Spaniards living here in Italy. And Italians in Spain, there are between 350,000 and 400,000. For every Spaniard here, there are 10 Italians over there. So that means that we are a nice country for Italians, and I'm very happy for that. And in August, last August, there were 1,190 the direct flights, 1,190 direct flights from weekly from Spain to Italy and from Italy to Spain. So 1,190 one direction, 1,190 the other direction. So imagine how linked both countries are. So I think both governments are fully aware that our government is a center-left government, the Italian government is a center-right government, but they are fully aware that the interests that we have to protect are more important than the political ideas or the political choices in each country. I was present at the lunch between President Sanchez and Prime Minister Moroni. It was in April 5th, I think, and it was in an incredibly good atmosphere. In YouTube, you can find the press conference, and you will see even the body language of both prime ministers. And I have to run away because I have a meeting with Minister Crosetto, Defense Minister. I'm going tomorrow, in a couple of days with Minister Lollobrigida to Vicenza. So I'm in full contact with them. Then they are coming to Spain because of the presence of the council. All the informal councils, as you know, are taking place in Spain, and all the ministers are coming there. So things are running well. Prime Minister, our National Day, we celebrated in October 12th. We made a huge reception in our embassy with more than 1,500 people, and there were 4 Italian ministers' presence. Even Vice President Salvini was there and speaking about the need of both countries, both people, to go hand in hand, to go together, to defend together our interests, and no matter the political choices of each government or of each people. That's all. One more. One more.
Oh, sorry. Hi, thank you very much for joining us today. Recently at the UN meeting, Erdogan...
Where do you come from?
Yeah?
Where do you come from?
Jordania.
Okay.
Erdogan has recently threatened the Secretary General of Humanitarianism through refusal of visa and has stated it's time to teach them a lesson. What is Spain's reaction and response to that? Thank you. Recently at a UN meeting, the UN Secretary General for Humanitarianism has condemned has condemned Israel's breachment of international law, and the representative for Israel has threatened them through refusal of visa and has stated it's quote-unquote time to teach them a lesson. What is Spain's reaction to that? Thank you.
There's not an official reaction. We are not now at the Security Council, so these conversations we are not involved. Our position towards the situation in the Middle East is the one that I underlined before, and I think it's very clear, is that we worked we were bridge builders in the drafting of this resolution. I think maybe today there will be new pieces of information coming from Brussels, because as the European Council we condemned very strongly the Hamas attack, but we also say that the humanitarian that Israel has to respect that not everybody in Gaza is a terrorist, and the kids obviously are not. Okay, thank you.
I would like to thank our ambassador Miguel Fernández-Palacios for his generosity in answering to the questions, and we wish you to consider also next year another question time if you enjoyed it today. Thank you very much.